Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to yet another Q&A session on Hinduism. My name is Nishit Kotak. I'm here with the team from Hindu Academy. For those of you who are new here, welcome to today's broadcast. I'll give you a quick rundown on how it works. We meet every week on Saturday at 2 o'clock UK time. Please note that from next week, there will be a change in the time, so we will be 1 hour earlier if you're watching us from outside the UK. Also, if you're watching us on Facebook, you would be watching us on facebook.com/Hindu Academy. And you may also be watching us on YouTube over at youtube.com/Hindu Academy. Now, the format of the Q&A session is as such. We run for about 45 to 50 minutes. We start off with a focus video, and then we do some discussion around that focus video, after which we take your questions live, which you can post in the comments area on the platform that you're watching us on today. So today's focus video is actually a very interesting one, and it is exploring the question or the idea that if God is one, then are all religions different pathways to simply reach the same destination? And so to look at this or to explore this, I'd like to invite you to watch this video, and we will then come back for a Q&A after that and carry on with the rest of today's discussion. Enjoy this.
Sir, here Sri Ramakrishna even practiced Christianity and Islam and said they lead to the same destination. How can this be true as their perception of spiritual living is vastly different from the Hindu pathway?
Yes.
Like heaven and hell in contrast to reincarnation.
You see, one of the features about Sri Ramakrishna is, first of all, the reason why I love him is another reason why it's a comprehensive vision of Hinduism. Every avatar will promote, say, Vaishnavism or Shaivism, etc. This individual came, first of all, to see if there's a reconciliation between different pathways the Hindus have adopted to make spiritual progress. So he tried Vaishnava tradition, he tried the Shaiva tradition, the Shakta tradition. He tried every aspect of every different pathways making spiritual progress within Hinduism. And the wonderful thing is he's such a powerful, dynamic personality. He was successful in every pathway tried. So he said all these pathways lead to the same destination. So far, so good. Only reconcile the Hindu vision. He said, no, he's a greedy fellow. He said, no, I want to see if this perception that I have about ultimate reality can be checked out using other religious traditions. And this is a fantastic thing. First time an individual is not able to verify various Hindu movements and reconcile them, he said, I want to try various religions. And the two religions he tried out is Christianity and Islam. These are the two major religions. He said, let me try Christianity, see if it takes me to the same destination. Let me try Islam as well, whether it takes me to the same destination. And he succeeded. And this is, he said, ultimate reality that I experience is same whether I'm using Christianity, Islam, or Hindu, any of the Hindu movements. Now people say, Mr. Lakhani, but that is a bit weird because you see the theology of Christianity or Islam is this two-life scenario. This life and the never, everlasting life as in heaven or hell. So how can this nothing with reincarnation of Hindus? So how can you say they are same? He never said they are same. He said they lead me to the same destination. You say, but how can you, Mr. Lakhani, how do you reconcile? This is how reconcile. If a person is genuinely spiritually oriented, he will basically talk about the spiritual experience he had. The doctrines that surround that spiritual experience are kind of produced by theologians, not by the master. The theologians get round and say, oh, this is what he meant. So even this idea of two-life scenario you see in Christianity was something that Christ didn't promote, but the theologians who are kind of, the father of Christianity said, okay, this is the best way to keep our flock in line so they don't jump, they don't sit on the fence. Be careful, either heaven or hell, carrot and stick. So let's plug it in. So the theologians in all these Abrahamic traditions have put in their own version regarding the spiritual experience of the master. The masters are right. Ramakrishna has tried out and it works. But the theology that goes around with these various kind of religions are seriously flawed. I'm saying it bluntly flawed. Even within certain Hindu movements, some of the theology that goes with it is flawed. And yet the masters who kind of, whether it's Ramanujacharya or Shankaracharya, the destination is the same. That is why this wonderful reconciliation we see with Sri Ramakrishna gives dignity and acceptability to all world tradition, not only Hindu traditions, in a genuine manner. He said, I see the same at the final level, I see the same destination. You see, because when I talk about pluralism, it's many ways to be spiritual, including many different religious pathways. People say, Mr. Lakhani, how do you know? Because maybe this is called relativism, means anything goes, you're promoting anything goes. We never said that, because the destination is same. Who says it? Any textbook? No. One individual. In the history of humanity, there's only one individual who claims, not just because you read a book, is negotiating their theology, he's actually experienced that the final level that he reaches when he uses any of the pathways is the same. Because one kind of challenge they throw in my face is this. We use this example in pluralism, saying that it's like climbing up the mountain using different pathways. So Christianity goes one way up, Islam goes the other way up, Hinduism goes the other way up. So they're saying maybe it's using different pathways to go to the top of the mountain. But the challenge I get, and I love this kind of challenges from the atheists and from people who want to target me, they say, Mr. Lakhani, how do you know it's the same mountain they're climbing? Maybe they're climbing different mountains. What's the proof? It's a very serious challenge. The only proof, the only way to the same mountain is this one man in the history of humanity saying the same mountain is Ramakrishna. So he, in a way, gives rubber stamp to the idea of pluralism. No other prophet, ancient or modern, comes anywhere near giving this a wonderful way of reconciling various religious pathways of Hindus as well as other pathways used by other prophets. First person in the history of humanity. That's why I told you, it's Avatara Varishthai.
So how can we be sure that we are all going on the same mountain or
different mountains?
Different mountains.
No, we can, unless you become Ramakrishna, you can't verify it. The only person who is given this rubber stamp is the same mountain, is Ramakrishna. Because theologically or intellectually, you can say, no, they are different mountains. How do you know? They seem to be talking a different thing altogether. But the only person who can say, no, same mountain, I'm telling you, even though they say this is the scenario, the destination is the same, is this Ramakrishna.
Once you said that when you go higher and you see people of other tradition, you feel more affinity with them.
Correct.
Is that a proof?
Yes, that's the proof. Wonderful thing is this. I said it at one of these Christian meetings. They said, Mr. Lakhani, tell us about pluralism. I said, one of the beautiful kind of examples I can use, this is not Ramakrishna, this is me, a little tiddler. I said, one of the tiddler example is this. Suppose you're in a circle, you're trying to reach the center, and when you compare our directions of reaching the center, all the directions are different. You think plural, this means relativism, anything goes. All of us will have different directions to follow to reach the center. So even though we're using different compasses, different ways to reach the center, the result is going to be the same center. But you say, how can you be sure? And one of the beautiful things I just made up, just for fun. I said, if you are sincere about your own tradition and progress towards center promoted by your tradition, and somebody next to you is also using his own prescription, different direction to reach the center, as we get closer to the center, somehow, by natural, we feel affinity for each other. We don't feel like, and no, it is using different angle. We just feel comfortable with it. We just come closer together as we reach the center. While if we move away from the center, we are at loggerheads with people sitting next to us. This is the proof of, in a way, lovely way of saying, this is an intellectual gymnastic to suggest the same destination. But with Ramakrishna, it's not intellectual gymnastic, it's experience, it's a genuine experience.
So there you go, an interesting video to explore. And to take this further and to look into this topic, I'd like to invite my colleagues. We've got Manish Bhai, Vijay Bhai, and Sita Ben. Welcome to today's broadcast. Manish Bhai, over to you to see how we can best wrestle with this very interesting topic.
Thank you, Nisid Bhai. Yes, wonderful explanation there by Jai Bhai. You know, he's explaining in such clear terms. Vast difference between Islam and Christianity, the two major world religions, and there seems to be, conflict between all three of us and many other traditions as well. So to suggest that they're all leading to the same place is many people do not agree, and the only person who's really experienced it is Sri Ramakrishna. Now, we put a video about Sri Ramakrishna experiencing God through Islam, and another video about Sri Ramakrishna experiencing Jesus Christ after learning about him. So those videos are there on our YouTube channel. And one of the challenge we get is people say, oh, we do not accept Sri Ramakrishna's experience. Maybe he was hallucinating. What is your thought on that? Was Sri Ramakrishna hallucinating about all these spiritual experiences, Vijay bhai?
Okay, first, I think the thing is, no, he wasn't. I mean, I think what he has actually done, he's actually just vindicated the stand that Sanatana Dharma has been promoting all this time. It's not something that he's done out of the blue. It's actually something that Hindus have always accepted, that actually there is many pathways, yes, the divine. I mean, the Upanishads have said it. Oh, so many scriptures say it already. So it's not new, but it's good to see a rubber stamp given by somebody who's actually proven it, yes. So in effect, he just vindicated the stand of what we actually believe. And that's the beauty. I mean, the thing is this, that as Jayba mentioned, the theologians have got an agenda, it seems like. They're trying to make a club or a kind of a group, collective, to keep everybody together. And then they create all these rules. Like, I mean, in this day and age, I know many people who are not of a Hindu faith. They will never accept that somebody who is not a Christian or a Muslim will go to hell. It just doesn't make sense. No matter how good you are, why would God do that to you? So that's just out of the window. I think the other thing is also to mention is that what people forget is that the Bible was actually codified about 150 years after Christ passed away in the Council of Nicaea. Yes, that happened along. It may be the same with Islam, and people forget that actually it was actually Caliph Uthman who actually finalized it after so many years after the passing of the Prophet of Islam. So the thing is, when you codify, then you make rules and say, okay, mine is exclusive. And that's what happens. The experiential part of the following is lost out, is made into just a pure following it blindly, not. And that's what I think Ramakrishna actually proved, that you can experience it. Forget the book. Leave the book on the side. How do you experience the divine? And we've had no issues. I mean, not only that, not only religions, also so many other pathways like music, art, dance. There's so many ways to explore spirituality. And that's the beauty about Ramakrishna Paramahansa, that actually I mean, we all say it sometimes, all books say it. He's actually shown and given a stamp to it. And that's the beauty about it, yes. Sita?
Yeah, I think he came at a really important time because Hinduism at that particular point when he was born, it was very scattered. There was nothing to reconcile all the various different strands of Hinduism. We had contact with people of other religions like Christianity and Islam, and everything seemed completely scattered. So Ramakrishna came to fulfill the purpose to say, look, all of these different pathways do lead to the same ultimate. He didn't come to start his own religious cult or own sectarian movement at all. He actually came to reconcile not just Hindu points of view, but other world religious points of view. And it came at such a critical time because, since the last 100 years, like, people of different religions are much more in contact with each other than ever throughout history. So there was a need to provide people like a toolkit to say, look, you can work with people of other religions. There's nothing to say that we are contradictory in any sense, especially at the level of, spiritual experience. You just have to, in a way, sort of forget the doctrines and dogmas that sort of surround each religion or surround each sectarian movement. Focus on the spiritual experience that they're ultimately going to lead to. That's the most important thing, rather than the sectarian movements or doctrines or dogmas that come around it.
Wonderful answer there, Sita Ben and Vijay bhai. So Vijay bhai, as you mentioned, Hinduism always had this pluralism idea that there are many pathways, and some people suggest that RK Mission, Ramakrishna Mission, is trying to plug in all this to sort of keep peace with this other religion. How could you please explore on how Hinduism always been pluralistic?
Yeah, I think the idea of keeping the peace, I don't think it's totally. I mean, Ramakrishna has always worked for the poor, regardless of faith. Because their message is for, kind of in a way like human spiritual, spiritual humanism. They've always not looked at religion. They've always looked at the person as a person, a spiritual, divine person that helped them. And that's why I think many people are surprised that a lot of the schools that run in Bengal, they have more Muslim students than actually Hindu students. You'd be surprised, yes. And I think even the Muslim families feel very comfortable sending their kids to Ramakrishna Mission School. So they will talk about divinity and about life and whatever. They don't convert anybody in that sense. But as the thing is, one thing to mention, if you notice in Hinduism, this word Sanatana Dharma, you'll never see a word saying like, oh, I don't know, like Shankaracharyanity or like Ramakrishnanity. You don't see that, do you? You never see somebody making religion after a person, because it's never been the case. I mean, that's why the word Sanatana Dharma is so beautiful. It's broad, it's universal. Think about it, it doesn't exclude anybody. Sanatana, eternal, universal, and Dharma, which is inner nature and all the things. That word to put together doesn't really make it exclusive. It actually makes it inclusive, and that's how Hinduism has always been. And that's the beauty about Hinduism. If you go to India at that ancient time, when you see that people here, I think the heathens or pagans actually put on a cross and kind of burned. India was very normal. Everybody could believe in what they would. No problem. You have Shaktos here, Vaishnavites, Shaivites. And it's no problem at all, yes, because you always believe that. That's always been the kind of it's in our genes, basically, to accept that, yeah. So Ramakrishna Mission is not doing anything to keep the peace as such. That's how we are, yes. But I know one thing which you find many Hindus find, I don't agree with it as well, is what I find kind of a bit challenging or a bit offensive is when people come and say that, oh, we are exclusive, we are an exclusive club. We are the only way to go to achieve moksha or salvation. If you do anything else, then you're going to burn in hellfire. I mean, that today, this day is just very laughable. No matter how hard somebody takes to me, I just look, even in the West, let's face it, most Christians don't accept that idea. Actually, many Christians I've met now, they also kind of accept the idea of pluralism. So when I heard the Pope Francis saying that the God is one, there are many pathways to reach him, although I was very surprised, but I think there's no other way. In the future, he'd have to say that, because people just won't accept exclusive pathways anymore. It just doesn't work. Yeah, Sita?
Yeah, no, I was amazed to hear that as well, and it's so refreshing that somebody from different religion has also said the same thing, that all pathways lead to the same ultimate reality. And I think in terms of what we were saying about keeping the peace, I don't think the Ramakrishna Mission is there to sort of be a sort of social referee and say everyone stop fighting. It's not meant to be for that. It's not the purpose of Ramakrishna Mission. It's to serve humanity, and it's to just make sure that everyone is respected regardless of their spiritual outlook and their spiritual experience. That's the purpose of Ramakrishna Mission. It's the broadness of Ramakrishna is manifested through the mission, I think. So I think it's very important to realize that it's more like spiritual democracy. Everyone is welcome to go on the path that suits them the most, and it doesn't mean that anybody is any less important.
Wonderful explanation there, Sita Ben. And it's good to see this coming from Pope Francis, that is saying all religions worship same God. But when we see on the ground the work that Christian missionaries doing, and the problem us Hindus face is the amount of conversion that's going on in India and places like there, where it's like poor people are target for conversion. How do we deal with this? And do we expect changes from this Christian lobby now? Sita Ben?
Yeah, so I mean, it's a very difficult situation because, Christian missionaries come in and they provide a great deal of help to these people. They give them, some economic sort of something to stand on, really. So these people, in a way, feel indebted to them. And then they think, oh, well, Christianity, that's the way to go. So it's very, very difficult sort of situation. But at the same time, if people had a proper understanding of their religion, fully, without sort of thinking, oh, it's a strange, weird religion, or to be gullible enough to believe that other people are saying, oh, what a weird religion, come and join us, then it gives us the sort of strength, the inner strength to say, no, I'm comfortable in my own particular pathway. Obviously, if, it's a different situation if you're an individual and you're born into a particular religion and you actually feel attracted to another particular religion, not because you're forced into it or anything like that, but because that's what you feel more inclined to, then Hinduism wouldn't stop you. They say, okay, well, that's the path that you're more inclined to, then please go for it. But the situation of conversion is very different, because there's an amount of pressure, there's an amount of, saying, look, I've given all this to you, I've done all this much for you, you must then believe in my religion. So that's a very different sort of picture. But hopefully it's sort of slowing down, and with the Pope saying these wonderful things about all religions leading to the same ultimate, hopefully the tide is changing and people will no longer feel the need to convert each other. Vijay Bhai?
Yeah, it's a major issue. I mean, I think that, as Sita mentioned, that a lot of it should do with giving them goodies, to try and entice them, and the motive is something else. Yes, the motive is not actually to help them. Motive is to get them to Christianity. I'll tell you what I think. This is personally, I think, is tremendously damaging, because they keep on saying that we're not destroying their culture, we're only converting them to Christianity. But actually, it's wiping a lot of cultures in the world. I mean, you just look at Americas, the Africa, and a lot of cultures have been wiped off. So in my view, this conversion is actually a dangerous thing. It destroys our diversity. But I think the other thing is that I think Hindus, or at least Indians themselves, have to take up this issue very seriously and work hard to preserve. I'll give you an example in Gujarat. I know that in the Dang area, which is the forest tribals, there's a huge amount of work going on there to convert. And after a while, I think the RSS, I believe, in India, they went there, and what they did was they actually helped them build schools, medical colleges, and they said, look, the fact that you believe in Shabari Ma is absolutely fine, and you get a chance to preserve. And it was not easy to get them back to the original path. It's fairly straightforward. So I think one thing is that we have to make an effort as well. But to say that if all pathways lead to the same goal, it's okay to cover others, no. I would go as far as saying is that it's actually a violation of human rights to try and trick somebody or try and convert somebody to a different faith. Look, everybody is divine. By converting somebody to some other faith, are you going to make him more divine? No. Yeah, he's already born as a divine being. So in the way Hindus see it, that it actually is actually wrong, because you don't make somebody better, more divine. Yes, but I think it will be very hard, because some Baptist movements are very strong in conversions. They have been actually totally been out there, in my view, brainwashed, and they believe that they have to do this. I think recently there was one missionary who went all the way to some islands in Andaman and Nicobar to convert some tribals who actually killed him because they didn't want him. But he just had this urge, and that is very dangerous. So I think these people need to realize that actually what they're doing is not really right. But I think the main thing is the Hindus should wake up and learn their own path and the greatness of the diversity that we have, and work very hard to preserve it. Because the fact is that diversity has been destroyed for thousands of years all over the world. And India is lucky today. We have so much diversity. And if we lose that, we lose something very big. So we have to work really hard to preserve it.
Wonderful answer there, Vijay Bhai. You answered the question from Krishna Thakrar saying, is it okay to convert to other religions? Sitaben, do you want to add on that Krishna Bhai's question? Some may argue that based on this argument, if all religions lead to same God, is it okay to convert other people?
Yes, no, it's not okay to convert anybody really. So we all have a different starting points to each other. All of us are on a very unique spiritual journey. We may be born into a particular religious path, or even a non-religious path. You could just be spiritual by nature and not necessarily follow a religion. But then it's not your responsibility or right to then go and convert other people, because they've got a very different starting point. You don't know what their spiritual journey has been up until this point. So in a way, you're causing more damage. You're making them lose their spiritual compass in a way. They've got their compass going up to the top of the mountain. You then say, no, go south. Then you're going to completely sort of, send them the wrong direction. So it's definitely not right to convert. Let everyone be, basically. Let everyone make their own spiritual progress in their own particular way.
Wonderful answer there, Sitaben. So let's take a first question from Adityan K. He's saying, do we have a first birth? Does the birth cycle, the samsara starts? Does it have a beginning? Vijay Bhai?
Okay, this is a very good question. This is at the heart of how Indic faiths and Abrahamic faiths think. It's very hard to get a concept, I think, to explain to somebody who's not from the Indic faiths, the idea of first birth. Look, there is no first birth, because as I mentioned in other videos before, first birth implies that actually there's cause and effect in play. The cause and effect idea only works, or at least space, time, and cause only works, only works when the universe is into play. When there's no universe in a cycle, when the kalpa stops and the universe stops, then there's actually no space, time. So how can there be first birth? A first birth implies there's actually an end birth, right? And that you can't say there's a first birth, then you live forever, which is what the Abrahamic faith believe. But it's very difficult to get your head around this because we live in a world of linear time. So to understand the fact that actually time, space, time doesn't affect the Atman. That's why in the Gita it keeps on saying that the Atman is ajanmaya, it's never born, it never dies, yes, it's never stuck. But however we feel because of the idea of prakriti or matter and a boundary, we feel that actually we are stuck in this idea. The day you separate yourself from this, you realize actually you're not linked to space-time. You've always been free. You've been taught. Of course, it brings a lot of other questions then. Why is that Maya? Why are we tied to? And that's where all these 7 acharyas of Vedanta come in and explain how good does Leela and how Maya works, to explain the idea why we are tied to this, the realm of time and space, yes, and why we should try and separate ourselves out from that and realize actually we are different from that, and we actually transcend the idea of space, time, and causality, and that is moksha. So no, we don't have a first birth. Sita?
Yeah, so I mean, like you were saying, there's no sort of beginning and end sort of time. Hinduism very much believes in the cyclical nature of time, and really it's a stream of existence. We are basically just a part of a stream of existence, like a river. It's just flowing constantly. We're flowing between different births and deaths, and we're just living our lives, trying to sort of connect with who we truly are, sort of thing. So there's no sort of beginning and end to that cycle. We are just part of this huge, vast stream of consciousness, which is sort of flowing and being born and dying and being reborn again and again. So that's really, we have to sort of see ourselves as part of a really broad picture.
Fabulous. It's been really interesting to explore this topic, and I've been chatting with some of the people over on YouTube and Facebook. Thank you so much for contributing your thoughts and interacting with each other on these platforms. Now, if you're new to these broadcasts, I'd like to share a couple of our resources which are available to you. So we've got our website at hindu-academy.com. Over here, you can then access the ebook that we've got on Hinduism. We've also got our e-learning courses, which are available here at hindu-academy.coachzippy.com. We've got 2 courses. One is the basics of Hinduism. Then we got another course for students of the Cambridge O-level Hinduism exam. And today I wanted to introduce a new concept that we are exploring. So I'd like your help with this. So if you're watching us live, what I'd like you to do is go to the comments area on YouTube. There will be a pinned comment, and there's a link to this page. So on this page, you will find there's a brief introductory message here. And we're trying to collect your questions by video before the Q&A session. So we can have your video playing, and you can submit your questions in advance. So please make sure that it is under 1 minute. Introduce yourself with your name, your location, and then ask your questions. And you can upload it by hitting the record button here. Instructions are on this video as well. So I'd like you to just go ahead and test it out for us. Submit a couple of questions so that we can see how the system works. And if it works well, then we'll roll it out for the rest of the weeks coming ahead. So that's it. That was my short commercial break, and back to the team again to carry on with the rest of the questions.
Thank you, Nisibhai. Yeah, so let's take the next question. Charmaine, she's saying she's got a staff member who is a devout bhakta, and she prays, fasts, does puja, etc., and always seems to be at the receiving end of endless challenges. And she's asking, how can God allow this? Because I think you can relate to it, because soon as you try to go towards God, it seems like all the troubles seem to come your way. So what's going on, Sita Ben?
Yeah, I'm not sure why. I mean, maybe people are sort of challenging their beliefs, unfortunately, because the world is very sort of skeptical about religion at the moment. So possibly, she's coming across people saying, what is this? Why are you doing this? There's no proof of God, that kind of thing, possibly. But if you are sort of sincere in your pathway, you just have to be strong, because you know that that's the right pathway for you. So let people say what they want to say, or let them do what they want to do. You do what is right for you. You have to follow your own spiritual compass. You have to make your own pathway. And once you do, you'll become sort of, in a way, immune to people who are sort of criticizing you and challenging you, or even not just people, but even circumstances may sort of come up against you, which are very difficult, very challenging. But having this bhakti, having this belief, this devotion, will give you the inner strength to sort of carry on and, make great spiritual progress and cope with the difficulties of life. Building a relationship with a personal form of God, it means you've got somebody there who you can see as a spiritual guide, somebody who can be your mentor in a way. So having this bhakti is very, very important. Let people say what they want to say, let things happen, let challenges come, but you will ultimately, hopefully, be strong in them. Vijay bhai?
I think you got it quite nice. I think there's two things: there's challenges within, which we all face, and challenges from outside. I think today, the world has become so kind of, I won't say secular, but a lot of people are very skeptical about God, and they will always just make fun or say, "Oh, how can you still believe in a God?" Yes, some people these days who say that. But I think one thing to remember also, that if you face some personal challenges, what I would say is that don't think you're alone. Everybody faces personal challenges all the time. They may not say it, but actually, by being a devout bhakta, you're in a stronger place because you have this strength in you. And plus, if you pray, do fast, you have a lot of discipline. And I think ultimately, you may not realize, but you're far stronger than many others who have nothing to hold on to, and they just tend to just hide their kind of challenges. So I would just say, Sita says, just be strong and don't get swayed by anybody else. Do what you're doing. I think you're on the right path. Yeah.
Wonderful answer there. So there you go. If you believe in God, be strong, really strong, so that you can withstand any challenges. That's the way to go. Next question we'll take from Asa Satpati. It's an interesting question. She's saying, dear all, the underpinning ultimate reality, how are you imagining it in your mind? How you are thinking about it. She wants to know what's our imagination. Can we put it into words? Is it possible? Vijay bhai?
Okay, I'll tell you how. This is a bit interesting because I always think about this idea that what is the ultimate reality? Yes, what is it? Is it some human or some spirit, whatever? But I think the one thing we've realized in the Indic faith, remember, we believe that all life is divine, spiritual, and have a soul. Unlike in the Abrahamic faith, where we say that God makes man in his own image. So there they have a clear-cut view that they're aiming for a God who looks like them. They're made in his image, cut in his cloth, basically. But for the Hindus, we have, if you believe all life has soul, that is from all the trees, all the bacteria, the billions in our body, they all have soul and divine life. So of course, the ultimate reality cannot be a thing or something you can ultimately pin down. So it has to be something far more. So the way I see it is the culmination of all the divine beings, all the living souls in this world. The culmination of all these living souls, where they unite and where they see the oneness of everything that includes plants, trees, humans. That to me is what I see as the ultimate reality, which unites everything in the universe. But that's my goal, to try and see what that is. But yeah, it's in that sense, it's a tricky question. So the ultimate reality is like an underlying principle more than a personality, yes. And I think ultimately that has to be the way. Of course, we use finite artifacts and motifs to focus on. But the ultimate reality has to be some principle which unites everything and one and all, basically. Sita?
Yeah, I mean, I personally don't think there's anything to imagine, really. God is in front of you. God is in, everything that we see is God. Yeah. So there's nothing to imagine. This is basically open your eyes and that's God, essentially. That's the magic of it, really. It's really beautiful. If you think about it, you sort of look behind the crass materialism of everyday life. You can see beauty and you can see the existence and consciousness and bliss behind everything. And that really sort of gives you a different perspective on life, a deeper perspective, and something that can really hold your hand during sort of challenging times. So I don't think there's anything to imagine. Just God is in front of your eyes. Just open your eyes and look at the world, and that's it, really.
Wonderful answer there, Sita Ben, Vijay Bhai. In my case, you know, I love personal God and Ramakrishna Paramahansa, so they are my sort of pillars, and I don't try to even go beyond it. But when I'm looking at other material, I may think about certain things, but I don't think I can articulate it, to be honest. Next question we take from Colin Maharaj. He's saying he's in a job that is very hard, and for many years he's been doing this job, and he never married or had a companionship. Is it okay, or should he seek a marriage? Sita Ben?
Well, everyone is individual in their own particular way. So some people are suited to the idea of marriage and having a family, some people are not. So it's really, you have to decide for yourself, is this something that you want, or do you feel it's something that you don't need? You have to ultimately look at your own sort of inner happiness and look at what's going to help you make spiritual progress in the way that suits you the most. And I think my dad has mentioned in a previous video, for the vast majority of people, having a family seems to be the most sort of normal way of making spiritual progress, because you're then sort of looking at other people around you. You're looking at their needs constantly over your own, and that's the beginning of spiritual living. And then you sort of extend the circle of who you call your own, not just you and your immediate family, but your wider community, your friends, your neighbors, and that's how you kind of live a spiritual life. So for the majority of people, probably marriage and having a family is the best sort of way of making progress. And Ramakrishna actually did that. He got married, even though he was immersed in spirituality. He got married to show that, look, you can treat your marriage as a way of making spiritual progress. Use your companion as a way of making progress, which is a wonderful idea. And for some other people, it totally depends on your temperament. You may prefer a more sort of monastic lifestyle. You may want to go and live in a monastery. You may want to sort of make progress in solitude, and that's totally up to you as well. So really, you have to see what's going to make you happy ultimately. Vijay Bhai?
I think Sita, you tackle it quite nicely. There's this conception that although Hinduism does value celibacy or the brahmacharya, but as Sita said, don't do that if it doesn't suit you. Yes, actually marriage is also a good thing. It's one of the aims of Hindu life as well. So there's nothing wrong in marriage. So I would say one thing about the job you mentioned. Look, a lot of jobs are very hard. All jobs are very hard, and I find it sometimes very hard to switch off from my job. But it's just the best I can. I just switch my mind off and forget the job, and come Monday I'll start again. Because if you think about it, it's going to really get you, right? That's the fact. But one thing to remember is that Sita mentioned monastic life is that, for some people, they're geared to helping others without getting married. Their life is just geared. And I want to spend all my life helping others. And they actually go and interact. I think one thing to realize is that maybe in the olden days, the idea of being a recluse was a good idea. When people are recluse and they go away in the Himalayas and just don't interact. There are some who do that. But I would prefer what Ramakrishna Paramahansa did. Not only was he married, but he actually used to interact with all his devotees that would come and visit him. And that's the way of living, to help others and work with others. So no matter what path you choose, calling it, what I would say is interact with people. If you choose to seek marriage for happiness, it's very good for you. If you choose not to, please interact, work with communities, work with other clubs, and help them out. That will hopefully sometimes make you forget your very hard job and feel you actually be contributing to society. So try and live in society like the way Ramakrishna Paramahansa. That I think is a good thing to do. But yeah, I leave it to you. Both are okay, yes. So yeah.
Wonderful answer, Sita Ben and Vijay Bhai. We take next question from Nandi Suresh. He's saying we are seeing many gurus like Ramakrishna Paramahansa, Vivekananda, Kanchi Paramacharya, Adi Sankaracharya. Would we be seeing more gurus? Would they keep coming till the end of Kali Yuga? I think even, let's say, Satyuga started. Would they still be coming? Vijay bhai?
Yeah. I mean, the idea of the gurus has always been inbuilt into in Hinduism. So the idea of Guru Shishya Parampara is that, we get somebody to help us speed up our path to spirituality. So gurus will always be there, and there's nothing wrong with gurus. And if you think you're up to it, there's nothing wrong. You become a guru as a helping others. The only thing is not to be a dodgy guru. That's the main thing to focus on. Recently I just had the news. Somebody sent me a tweet that there's one leader, a guru in India, who's got amassed thousands of crores of rupees as well. They found a lot of cash in his ashram, something. That's not the kind of guru you want. So there's nothing, and there should be gurus. There's no doubt. I mean, we all help each other spirituality. Sometimes, even if you're not a guru, if you're helping someone spiritual, you're actually playing a part of a guru indirectly or indirectly or not. You're playing that part. So I think guru in this general sense is nothing wrong with that, and there will always be gurus coming. The key thing is there's only 1% maybe out of 100 which are really genuine gurus. The rest are not, genuine. So that's the only thing you have to watch out for. Asita, man.
Yeah, no, I think, as sort of time evolves, life is very different 100 years ago, and it's going to be very different in 100 years again. So there is a need for gurus to keep coming and being our spiritual guides, because our sort of life is changing at such a fast pace. So there is a need for the message of spirituality to keep evolving. But like Vijay Bhai said, if you experience God or you have a spiritual experience, then please do become a guru and guide the rest of us. That would be amazing. But yes, please make sure that there's no sort of commercial motivation behind it, obviously. So yes, as time continues to change, hopefully more and more gurus will continue to come and guide us to make spiritual progress.
Brilliant. So I wanted to ask a quick question. I meet a lot of people in the course of my work, and some people I can see are like very timid and shy, and they sort of have this aspect around them that maybe they're not having a high sense of self-worth. Then I meet some other people who are very, confident about themselves. They're aware of what they do, and they're very, very confident about, their sense of self-worth. And then on the opposite end of the spectrum, I meet people who are completely off their, rocker. They think way much more of themselves than they actually have any credit for. And so my question is this: how or where does a sense of self-worth come from, and how does one go about making sure you have a sensible balance between ego and the other end where you think you're not worth anything? How does one maintain the balance? Where does it come from, and how to maintain the balance?
Yeah, okay, I can have a go. Yeah, it's very important to maintain balance. I think the main thing is to keep your own measurement. Don't measure yourself against others, and that's a big thing you can do. If you measure with others, you'll struggle. It reminds me of a story of Ramakrishna Paramahansa. He had two devotees, yes, and one was going in a boat, and then people are really making fun of Ramakrishna Paramahansa, and he said nothing, and he just said like a timid person. And then Ramakrishna asked him, "Why didn't you say something? You should have spoken up." Yes, and yeah, maybe I should have. Then some other time another devotee, and he was really aggressive, saying, "How dare you say this about Guru? I'm going to punch your face." And he goes, "Why did you do that? You shouldn't have done that." Yeah, people keep on saying things about me. Just ignore him, right? So the thing is trying to bring them into balance. So the balance is very important. But the key thing is that make your own goalposts, make your own measurements, and work to your own. Don't measure against others, because you're not going to succeed with the measurement of others. As you say, some have got really fake goalposts, and you try to aim those. They haven't even met it. They're just showing that they have met those goalposts, but they haven't. So if you look at that, it will not work. Yes. So key thing is know for yourself. Look, if I'm not too much timid, then I should work harder to be a bit more interactive. If I'm too much ego, then I should work to come in the middle. So I think a balance is important, but try as much as possible to set your own aims in life. Don't try and aim for others. Yeah, as we know, it's been very difficult to meet those. And there's something I really want to be, but I'll never be. So I put my own reasonable goalposts and try and meet those. Sita.
I think because we're all born with very, very different temperaments, and that probably comes from, our past lives, what kind of lives we've had in the past, who knows? But even a brother and a sister born in the same family, one could be very confident, one could be very shy, and they've got the same genes. So how do you account for that? So I think it's one of those things where, like Vijay Bhai said, you have to sort of create your own sort of goalposts, find what you are good at, find your strengths, your weaknesses, and try and sort of build confidence on the things that you are good at in life. And I think having a spiritual anchoring in your life is something very important, because it can really help to build your self-worth. You can say that, look, in times of difficulty, I do have the strength to tackle things head on, rather than be timid and shy away from them, or to be passive about all of these things. So I think we all come from very, very sort of different standpoints. We have to sort of judge our character and try and mold our character, because in the next life that we're going to live, who knows where or when it's going to be, that's the only thing that's going to be coming with us, is our character. So it's so important. This is our time in our life to chisel our character, mold it, to make us strong to tackle any sort of challenges in the future, and to really hopefully ultimately find God, or have that spiritual experience which can really anchor you and make you the most balanced person ever. So let's see.
Wonderful answer there, Sita Ben. So yes, it depends on us, but try to get the balance. That's the way to go. Next question from Anuj Panwar. He's asking, as per his understanding of Gita, it teaches us not to be affected by 3 gunas in order to achieve spiritual experience. Brahma is calling. Is it right? And is there a 4th guna called Brahma guna? Sita Ben?
So, I mean, I think in the Bhagavad Gita, what they say is that all of us are made up of the 3 gunas, the 3 qualities, tamas, rajas, and sattva. So the aim of spiritual living is to move from tamas to rajas, and then from rajas to sattva. So we ultimately want to become more and more sattvic in everything that we do. So we want to move away from laziness and inertia towards being active, being passionate about things, and then to ultimately becoming sattvic, to becoming knowledgeable and enlightened. And that's the way it's sort of given us a pathway of making progress in our everyday life. And the gunas sort of infuse every aspect of our life, right from what we eat to what we do to where we go, all of these things, activities we choose to do or not do. So in a way, it sort of directs us. It says, okay, if I have the choice of doing my homework or sitting on the couch, I should probably go and do my homework. So you move from tamas to rajas. So every day we are faced with all of these choices, and we have to sort of use that as a compass to say, how can we then move up the sort of goalposts and get to a more sattvic way of living. Vijay Bhai?
Yeah, I think, I think Sita, you kind of summed it very nicely. So in the Gita, one thing to remember is that the 3 gunas which you have, which is kind of first kind of codified by Acharya Kapil Muni of the Sankhya Darshan, they are actually part of Prakriti. So they're actually parts of the Prakriti idea. So when Anuj says that the 4th guna is Brahma guna, basically that means transcending the idea of Prakriti and finding moksha. But Sita says in Gita says that you have to move from tamas, rajas to sattvic. When you're in sattvic, when you live a proper sattvic life, then the next stage of achieving moksha is just there, basically goalpost. I think that's what Anuj thinks. So yeah, so 3 gunas are part of the Prakriti, not part of the spirit in that sense. But once you transcend, so the idea of Brahma guna, what are attributes? There are no attributes because you transcend, you become intense spiritual, yes, and you become the idea of Satchit Anand. So then you've transcended all that idea. That's all I can add on that, really. Yeah, Manish Bhai.
Wonderful answer there, Vijay Bhai. Sorry, I was thinking about this next question from Prasannananda Jha. He's saying, what is the importance of brahmacharya for the spiritual experience? And this ties in what question from Alakram Chaudhary. He's asking why not many Hindus are interested in moksha or trying for moksha. So the question is, can you experience God if you were not practicing celibacy? And why Hindus are not, striving to achieve moksha? Sita Ben?
Yeah, so celibacy is one of those things that you will need if you want to make spiritual progress and find enlightenment ultimately. Obviously, it's very difficult for all of us to be celibate for the whole period of our lives. So we've actually got the ashram system within Hinduism, which shows us different points in our life where we can practice brahmacharya to make that progress. So obviously the first stage of our life is the student stage of our life. So that's the time where we shouldn't be having boyfriends and going dating. That's the time that we should be focusing on celibacy and study and building our skill set. The next stage of our life, people understand that people need to get married. So perhaps that's a time in our life where we don't necessarily have to practice celibacy. But I know that Ramakrishna says that after the birth of 1 or 2 children, then make sure that you see your partner as a spiritual companion. Make that leap from it just being, a physical relationship to a spiritual relationship, which is very, very important. Otherwise, you're just going to be stuck in a materialistic lifestyle. So treat your partner as a spiritual companion. And it's actually one of the sort of names given to the wife during the marriage ceremony. She is called the Sahadarmini, the companion for making spiritual progress. So that's the thing, we have to sort of live out our lives, and there's certain periods of our life where we're given a break, and there's certain periods of our life where we should then focus again on celibacy. And the reason why I think celibacy is so important in making spiritual progress is you have to sort of detach yourself from the idea that you are the body. Make sure that you don't relate to yourself as being a physical body. You are much more than that. You are Atman, you are essentially divine. So you have to make that transition to have a spiritual experience. So it's a very important part of the whole journey. Vijay Bhai?
Yeah, I think you've tackled it brilliant, Sita. I mean, yeah, I think the thing is also the Ramakrishna mission, as I think Prasanna mentioned, yes, they're all brahmacharis. But you can remember they're really inspired by Ramakrishna Paramahansa, yes, and his life. That really inspires them to stick to a brahmacharya kind of ashram. But yes, it's a tough thing because our bodies are inbuilt, we're mechanically built to procreate. Yes, so you'll have all this stuff. But ultimately, as Sita says, that if you link to your body, then you cannot achieve moksha. You have to transcend from the idea that the body and transcend. And as Sita mentioned, the stages we have in Hinduism is in a way good because it makes you fulfill all these aims. And it's okay, now, okay, I've done this. Right, let's get, if you marry somebody, make him a spiritual partner and focus on spirituality. So ultimately, that's going to, because you have to detach yourself from the body. And that's what this brahmacharya ashram, the brahmacharya idea is very, very powerful. Yeah.
Wonderful answers there, Sita and Vijay Bhai. So next question from again Prasanna Desai, saying, how is this relevant in today's era when there is an outburst of pornographic content on the internet? How is celibacy relevant? Vijay Bhai?
It's a big challenge, yes. I mean, it's everywhere. All I can say is that pornography will not help you in any way. Even in a normal way, it will not help you. Forget being a brahmacharya. It's just because, think about it, there's so much in this world. Yeah? There's so much beauty which transcends the body. I mean, even in the sense that if your urges are always there, but there's so much out there, so much beauty in books, everything. You lose all that stuff. So yeah, it's a challenge in this day and age. But I think it's possible because if you just focus and discipline yourself, look, like, I mean, for example, I get my magazine every month on engineering technology, and I'm reading about the space station, International Space Station. And it's absolutely amazing. And that kind of makes me really excited, yes. It may sound strange to some other people, but these are kind of things. If you focus on your mind on knowledge, on spirituality, on divinity, go out, take some walks, and think who you really are. Don't think as the body. And that's why you tackle this, because the fact is these things are out there. There's so many distractions. And like pornography is a very, very powerful issue that a lot of people face. But make yourself busy, do important things. And I remember Jai Bhai who said the one way for young children to make them focus on brahmacharya is take up a hobby, do some sports and be good at it. Take any hobby up, yeah? Music, art, dance, soccer, cricket, and totally focus on that. That'll take you away from all this rubbish and nonsense. So, Sita Ben.
Yeah, so I mean, especially in the sort of early stage of our life, it's very important to make sure we sort of are celibate and make sure that we sort of make as best use of our skills as we can. And as Vijay Bhai said, the best way to do that is to sort of channel your energies in positive ways through hobbies. And schools these days are very good at sort of, giving you so many opportunities to do, art and music and sports and dance. So make sure you sort of maximize your opportunities to develop these skills. And actually, they can be a real asset to you later in life. You know, just having something to turn to, you know, as a sort of solace, or, you know, something to do when you're passionate about and you're good at, it really gives you a great sense of achievement, and it's also a way of making progress spiritually. So it's a wonderful thing to develop rather than focusing on sort of crass materialistic pictures and all of that.
Fabulous. Thank you so very much, everybody, for joining us on today's Q&A session. We are now going to wrap up. We've been almost on for about an hour. I want to thank you all for your various contributions, your generous, suggestions and ideas, and your feedback is always welcome. I'd like to request you all one more last time, if you could kindly help us by going over to this new system that we've got, where you can submit your questions by video in advance of next week's Q&A session. I will leave the link again in YouTube and on Facebook. And as every week, I'd like to end with a quote from Swami Vivekananda. And today's quote goes like this: "Arise, awake, and stop not until the goal is reached." With this, I'd like to wish you all a very good week ahead. And we look forward to catching up with you all next week on Saturday at 2 o'clock. Remember, like I said, the time changes tomorrow for us here in the UK. So make sure you're on at the right time in your respective countries. Bye-bye for now from myself and the team.
Wish you happy Holi, everyone.
Happy Holi, everybody.